When it comes to the competitive scene, there are so many differing opinions on what is competitive and how it should be played. You have the official format of VGC, you have Smogon's tiered system, you have individual players and their individual formats, and community tournament settings that create their own rule set. Yet, when it comes to balancing a competitive scene, Game Freak and Pokemon Company has not been so adept at balancing. And it seems the only real way they can balance any competitive setting with how complicated Pokemon is to outright ban Pokemon or affect major changes to the most unique Pokemon and abilities and moves.
Wake up now, see the truth. I'm here to show the world to you. I'm going to make you realize. So open your eyes.
I'll start this video off by saying there are three kinds of competitive. First is the official competitive setting, VGC, and its rule set. Second is the unofficial competitive setting of Smogon and its tiered system. Third is the casual competitive format that nearly everyone follows when they aren't playing by Smogon or VGC rules. Game Freak talking about wanting to balance the competitive scene by disallowing Pokemon to enter the Galar region from previous games if they aren't already in it is a clear sign they are unable or unwilling to truly attempt to tackle the problem themselves. In the past generations, based on my experience, they had 2 full years of VGC rules which alternate from game to game. The first year, they only allowed those Pokemon found in the regional decks, such as X and Y's competitive scene alongside Sun and Moon's. The following year, when the next game of the generation is released, we see introduced all the Pokemon from the national decks starting from Generation 1 to whatever the recent generation is, as seen as Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, as well as Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. So the statement of balancing the competitive scene by not allowing those Pokemon not found in Sword and Shield's regional decks is obviously unfounded. As if they were truly concerned, they could simply only allow regional Pokemon, and not the entire national decks. The truly competitive will happily follow those rules set, while the casual competitive battlers can have their fun with whatever Pokemon they wish. Game Freak's attempts to balance the competitive scene can also be noticed, though not nearly as extensively, by observing how they have changed Pokemon abilities and moves from generation to generation. One example of this can be found in Double Team and Minimize, both evasion boosting moves dreaded by so many trainers on the receiving end from how frustrating they are to fight, and those using them because of how unreliable they can be sometimes. Minimize, at one time, only boosted a single stage of evasion until Generation 5, when it raised evasion by 2 stages. To help counter this, certain moves were introduced that dealt double damage and connected if used after the opponent uses Minimize. To also help counter evasion, moves that had infinite accuracy were introduced that always hit the target no matter how evasive they were, such as Aura Sphere or Shockwave. However, not all of the infinite accuracy moves are equal in strength, despite all achieving the same result, as several moves, Disarming Voice, Aura Sphere, Vital Throw, alongside Smart Strike, all have stronger or weaker strengths to the rest, with only one having a lower attack priority. Another major change was the unique ability Gale Wings, thus far only found in the Talonflame line. In Generation 6, when Gale Wings was introduced, it gave priority to all flying-type moves, essentially making Talonflame the fastest moving flyer in the game, setting up priority Tailwind, launching devastating Brave Birds, and even giving itself a fast healing priority Roost when in danger, making Talonflame one of the strongest Pokemon in the game at the time. This ability was nerfed and gave Talonflame the priority only if the Pokemon was at full health in Sun and Moon. But the damage had already been done, and people had to endure this massive issue in the competitive scene for 2 full years until the nerf in Sun and Moon was introduced. Among the other issues is balancing some of the strongest Pokemon and their standard tactics, such as the dreaded Power Herb Xerneas. with its move requiring 2 turns to power up the Pokemon, granting it a +2 in speed, special attack, and special defense after completion. This normally high risk, high reward strat is reduced to a medium risk, high reward with the use of the Power Herb, negating the second turn and allowing Xerneas to finish the move on the first turn. Then there are of course the Primals. Despite being polar opposites meant to counter each other, Primal Kyogre requires its ability to be active to use its strongest move against its counterpart, while Primal Groudon only needs its ability to be active to protect itself against its weakness. On paper, they counterbalance each other, but in all seriousness, Groudon can fight in or out of the rain, whereas Kyogre loses its strongest attack if forced to fight in the sun. These three have always dominated the competitive scene since they were introduced, and even now they still take a commanding position on any team, with most high-end trainers using at least one, if not two, of the three Pokemon. Because of this lack of constant fine-tuning or balancing, people often turn to the unofficial Smogon format, with its promise of even play at the cost of multiple bands in Pokemon, moves, and abilities to help sate their competitive needs and desire for fair play. And this has caused a split in the community and what should be competitive and what shouldn't be, with the results of my research being most enlightening. I shall explain my researches in the next video.